It was the unlocked phone left charging on the guard's desk that changed everything. A routine cleaning shift turned into a nightmare when Maria Sanchez saw the message thread, a detailed list of names, prices, and dates. And at the very top, circled in brutal red, was the name of her boss's mother. Maria was just a single mother working the night shift, invisible to the powerful men who owned the high-security firm. But in that moment, holding the guard's phone, she became the only person standing between a wealthy family and a calculated execution. Now she faced an impossible choice: walk away and live with the consequences, or risk everything by warning a man who might be part of the plot himself. For Maria, invisibility was a survival skill. The graveyard shift cleaner at Citadel Security Solutions saw nothing and was seen by no one, which was how she liked it. Her world was defined by the beep of her time card, the smell of industrial disinfectant, and the relentless countdown to her son's next medical payment. Citadel wasn't just any firm. From the outside, it was a sleek provider of executive protection and cybersecurity for Fortune 500 companies. But the overnight crew whispered about the real clients: foreign oligarchs, private militias, and politicians who needed problems to disappear. The founder, Alessandro Costa, was a ghost in his own building, a man whose mother, Isabella, was the public face of their philanthropic foundation. The guard whose phone she'd found was Leo. Not a typical brute, he was ex-military, sharp, usually reading history books at his post. He'd always been polite, once even helping her fix a jammed cleaning cart. That's what made the messages so chilling. They weren't sent, they were received. The list had come to him. The names were all powerful people: a city councilor, a competing security firm's CEO, and Isabella Costa, age 74, with the word primary and a dollar figure next to it that made Maria's breath catch. 500,000. The most recent message, time-stamped just an hour ago, read: "Clock starts on the matriarch tomorrow. Confirm asset is in place." Maria's hands shook as she placed the phone back exactly as she found it. Her mind raced with excuses to leave, to forget what she saw. But her son's face flashed in her mind, the way he trusted her to make the world safe. How could she live with herself if she did nothing? She spent the rest of her shift in a fog, her polishing and wiping automatic. At 5 a.m. as she was leaving, she saw Leo at the security desk. He was on his personal phone, his expression tense, arguing in low, urgent tones. "I told you the timing is wrong, she's never alone." He looked up, catching Maria's eye. For a fraction of a second, his professional mask slipped, revealing a panic that mirrored her own. He ended the call abruptly and gave a stiff nod. "Morning, Maria." That look sealed it. He wasn't just a hired gun, he was a man in over his head. Driving home in the pale dawn light, Maria made her decision. She couldn't go to the police. What proof did she have? A screenshot she didn't take on a phone she couldn't access. They'd dismiss her, or worse, tip off Leo. The only person with the power to stop this and the most to lose was Alessandro Costa himself. Getting to him was its own mission. Costa was insulated by layers of assistance and security. As a cleaner, she was background noise. But she had one advantage: her invisibility. She knew the building's rhythms, the blind spots in the camera coverage on the executive floor, the time when Costa's personal secretary took her coffee break. 2 nights later, opportunity came. An all-hands security briefing for the day shift was scheduled in the main lobby at 7 a.m., pulling most personnel from their posts for 30 minutes. It was a vulnerability a company like Citadel would usually never allow. Maria realized it might be intentional, a test to see who was paying attention, or a trap. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she used her master keycard on the private elevator to the penthouse suite. The doors opened to a silent, minimalist office. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the waking city. Costa's desk was a sheet of polished black stone, empty save for a single, framed photograph of an elderly woman with kind eyes and silver hair: Isabella. Before she could lose her nerve, the main door hissed open. Alessandro Costa walked in, not from the elevator but from a concealed door in the wood paneling. He was younger than she expected, maybe 40, with the controlled stillness of a predator. He didn't look surprised to see her. "Maria Sanchez," he said, his voice calm. "Night shift custodial, 3 years of flawless service. Son Miguel, age 8, a fighter." He walked to his desk, not looking at her. "You're far from your assigned sector." She was frozen, every plan evaporating. He'd known her name. I saw something on a phone, Leo's phone." The words tumbled out. "There's a list. Your mother's name is on it, circled. They're going to kill her." Costa finally turned to face her. His expression was unreadable. "I know." The floor seemed to drop away. He knew. "The list," he continued, moving to the window, "is not a hit list. It's a liability assessment. My mother is not the target, she is the bait." He turned back, his gaze piercing. "The messages were allowed to reach Leo's phone. He is not the assassin, Maria. He's the canary in the coal mine. And now, because you intervened, you've just stepped into the cage with him." Maria stared, her mind refusing to process his words. Bait. The cold calculation in his voice was more terrifying than any outburst of rage. He gestured to a sleek monitor embedded in his desk, waking it with a touch. What appeared was not a security feed, but a complex web of connections, names, and financial transfers. "For the past 8 months, Costa began, his tone clinical, a rival firm, Blackguard Solutions, has been attempting a hostile takeover. Not through stock purchases, but through coercion. They target key personnel, find their pressure points, debts, addictions, family secrets, and turn them. Leo was their latest attempt. He has a sister with a rare genetic disorder. Treatment costs are astronomical." The screen zoomed in on Leo's profile. "The messages you saw were a test, sent by Blackguard to see if he would report them. If he had, it would have proven his loyalty to me. He didn't. But he also hasn't acted on them. He's paralyzed. A man stuck between his conscience and his sister's survival." Maria's fear curdled into a sickening understanding. "So you're just watching, using your own mother as a trap?" "My mother is the most protected woman in the state," Costa replied, a flicker of emotion finally crossing his face. "She is also the one who insisted on this. She said if we do not draw the poison out, it will find another way. The list is real, Maria. Those people are in danger. But the plot against my mother is a fiction, designed to smoke out the traitor within my own ranks. And now you have altered the experiment." He turned to face her fully. "Leo saw your reaction the other morning. He is not a fool. He knows you know. And if he knows, then his handlers at Blackguard will know within hours that their operation has been compromised by an unknown variable. You." The weight of it crushed the air from her lungs. She had tried to do the right thing and had instead stumbled into a hidden war. "What do I do?" she whispered. "You have 2 options," Costa said, sitting on the edge of his desk. "Option 1. I have you and your son quietly relocated. New identities, a modest settlement. You disappear tonight and this never happened. And Option 2. You stay, you go about your life but under our protection. You become part of the counter-operation. Your access, your invisibility could be useful. In return, I ensure your son's medical care is covered in full for life, no matter the cost." It was no choice at all. Running meant looking over her shoulder forever, wondering if every stranger was a Blackguard operative. Staying meant facing them directly, but it also meant security for Miguel, a future. "What do you need me to do?" A ghost of a smile touched Costa's lips. "First, you go home, you act normal. You will be watched, but not by Leo. My most trusted team will be on you. Second, you come to work tomorrow night, and you clean Leo's station again." He explained the plan. A tiny, undetectable listening device was to be placed inside the charging port of Leo's work phone. Maria's task was to swap his current charging cable for a modified one during her cleaning round. The device would feed audio directly to Costa. "He will likely receive a call tonight or tomorrow, panicked, about your visit to me," Costa said. "We need to hear that conversation. We need the voice on the other end." Maria left the penthouse in a daze, the modified charging cable a heavy secret in her cleaning cart. The building felt different now, every shadow a potential observer, every camera a judging eye. When she reached the lobby, Leo was at his post. He didn't look at her. That night, sleep was impossible. Every car that passed her apartment building made her heart jump. She checked on Miguel a dozen times, his peaceful face in the glow of his nightlight the only thing keeping her anchored. The next evening, her shift began with a new hyper-awareness. She cleaned offices, her ears straining for any unusual sound. At 2 a.m., she wheeled her cart toward the main security desk. Leo was there, but he was on the phone, his back turned, voice low and urgent. This was her moment. Her hands were steady as she unplugged the generic black cable from his phone and the wall outlet. In one smooth motion, she connected the identical-looking replacement. The swap took less than 3 seconds. She was polishing the edge of the desk when he turned around. "Sanchez," he said, his voice hollow, "everything quiet on your rounds?" "Yes, sir, all quiet." She kept her eyes on her rag. He was silent for a long moment. "You know, sometimes this job, you see things you wish you hadn't, makes you wonder what the right move is." Was he talking to her or himself? "I suppose that's true in any job," she said softly, not looking up. He let out a short, bitter laugh. "Yeah, maybe." He turned back to his monitors, the conversation clearly over. An hour later, hidden in a custodial closet, Maria listened on a secure earpiece Costa had given her. She heard the audio feed crackle to life. Leo was making a call. "It's me, the cleaner, the one I told you about. She went up to the penthouse suite yesterday. She was in there for almost 10 minutes, I don't know. Costa's people are like ghosts, but if she talked, we're blown." The voice on the other end was distorted but calm. "This is a complication, not a catastrophe. The asset remains in place. The timeline for the liability assessment is moved up. The matriarch's charity gala is in 72 hours. That is the new window. Can your asset confirm access to the venue plans?" Leo's breath hitched. "The gala, that's too high profile. There will be police, media." "Precisely. The message must be public. The old woman does not need to die, she just needs to be touched. A shot that grazes, a moment of chaos. It proves Costa cannot protect what is most precious to him. It proves his house is weak. Now confirm the asset." There was a long pause. "Asset confirms, we have the blueprints." The call ended. Maria slumped against the closet wall, her legs weak. It wasn't an assassination. It was a statement. A symbolic attack to humiliate Costa and trigger a panic among his clients. And they had someone inside the event planning. She reported everything verbatim to Costa through a text signal. His response was immediate. "Leave now. Use the service exit. A car will meet you. Do not go home." Panic surged. Miguel, her son, was at home with the sitter. "My son," she typed frantically. "He is already being collected. They are safe. Move now." Maria ran, abandoning her cart. She took the stairs down to the sub-basement service tunnel, her footsteps echoing in the concrete hollow. The black sedan was there, engine running. As it pulled away, she saw a different car, unmarked, pull into the alley near the service entrance. Costa's safe house was a discreet apartment in a quiet, upscale neighborhood. When Maria arrived, Miguel ran into her arms, confused but unharmed. Costa was there, his usual composure replaced by a focused intensity. "The gala," he said without preamble. "It's at the Metropolitan Art Museum. My mother's foundation is the host. Over 500 guests. We have just identified the asset." He showed her a staff manifest on a tablet. One name was highlighted. Anya Petrova, event coordinator, hired 3 months prior through a subcontractor. Her background was a flawless forgery. "She has access to everything," Costa said. "Staff movements, security schedules, the timing of the speeches. She could guide a shooter right to the optimal moment." "So cancel it. Arrest her, Maria said, holding Miguel close. If we cancel, they'll know we're onto them. They'll go deeper, try again when we're less prepared. If we arrest her quietly, they'll simply activate another asset we haven't found. We need to let the play unfold but control the ending. His plan was audacious. They would change the security details, the timings, the routes, but only on a sealed operational server that Anya had access to. The real plans would be communicated on paper, at the last minute, to a hand-picked team. The altered digital plans would lead the attacker into a controlled zone where he would be isolated and taken alive. "And my role?" Maria asked, already knowing she wouldn't like the answer. "You know the building. You've cleaned the museum for events before through our contract. You are the only person I have who is both completely unknown to Blackguard and who can move through service corridors without raising an eyebrow. I need you on the inside as my eyes. You will be part of the real cleaning crew that night. You will watch Anya. You will signal us the moment she makes her move." It was a direct order wrapped in a request. She looked at Miguel, who was now happily drawing with pencils Costa had produced. She thought of the $500,000 figure next to Isabella Costa's name. A public wounding would destroy the family's reputation and business. It would also terrorize a kind-faced old woman she had seen in a photograph. "I'll do it," Maria said. The next 48 hours were a blur of briefings and rehearsals. Maria was shown blueprints of the museum until she could walk them in her sleep. She was fitted with a discreet button camera and a panic transmitter. She learned to recognize Anya Petrova from a dozen different angles. The night of the gala arrived. Maria, in a nondescript staff uniform, pushed a cleaning cart loaded with supplies through the bustling underbelly of the museum. The air was thick with tension and the smell of catered food. Through her earpiece, she heard the calm, fragmented reports of Costa's team. "All perimeter teams green. Digital honeypot is active. Asset has accessed the false floor plans. Matriarch has arrived, moving to holding room Alpha." Maria's cart had a silent, hidden monitor. It showed a floor plan with blinking dots. Anya's dot was moving from the kitchen toward the main hall's eastern service entrance. A second, red dot, labeled unknown, had just entered the museum from a loading dock, his path guided by the false plan straight toward a maintenance closet that would, according to the files, offer a perfect sightline to the stage. But the real stage had been moved 12 feet west. The closet was now a dead end, covered by 3 of Costa's men. "Red dot is in the funnel," a voice said in her ear. "Stand by." Maria rounded a corner and saw Anya Petrova. The woman was standing by a fire exit, pretending to check her clipboard, but her eyes were fixed on a small watch. She was counting down. Then everything went wrong. Anya's head snapped up. She looked not toward the main hall, but down the corridor toward Maria. Their eyes met. Anya's expression shifted from concentration to cold recognition. She dropped the clipboard and bolted, not toward the action but deeper into the staff corridors. "Asset is spooked. She's running east away from the package," a voice yelled in Maria's ear. "Maria, can you track?" Costa's voice tense cut through. Anya was disappearing around a corner. Maria abandoned her cart and ran after her. The corridor twisted past boiler rooms and storage lockers. Anya was fast, fueled by adrenaline. She burst through a door into a parking garage, Maria close behind. Anya spun, a small, vicious-looking knife appearing in her hand. "You, the cleaner, you ruined everything." "It's over, Anya," Maria said, backing up, her hand fumbling for the panic button. "You have no idea what's over," Anya snarled. The shot at the old woman was never the real play, it was the distraction. From the shadows of the garage, 2 more figures emerged, blocking the exit. They weren't holding guns, they held syringes, and they were looking straight at Maria. The voice in her earpiece was frantic with static. "Maria, report. We lost your signal in the garage. Maria." Anya smiled. The liability assessment wasn't for his mother. It was for the loose end he didn't know he had. You. Maria's back hit the cold concrete wall. The two men with syringes fanned out, cutting off any escape. Anya's smile was a knife. Costa thought he was running a counter-operation. He was walking right into ours. You were the objective from the moment you picked up that phone. The panic button was dead in Maria's hand, the signal blocked. She had only her wits and the contents of a cleaning cart she'd abandoned 2 corridors back. Why me? I'm nobody. You're a witness, one of the men growled, stepping closer. An inconvenient one, but more than that, you're a paintbrush. The right disappearance, staged the right way, paints a very ugly picture of Alessandro Costa. The pieces slammed together in Maria's mind with brutal clarity. If she vanished or was found dead after her secret meeting with Costa, the narrative writes itself. A powerful security magnate silencing a low-wage employee who saw something she shouldn't. The scandal would destroy client trust. Regulatory investigations would cripple his company. Blackguard wouldn't need a hostile takeover. Citadel would collapse from within. Anya nodded, reading her expression. Smart. Now the syringe, it's just a sedative. You take a long nap, wake up somewhere quiet. We have a few questions, then we arrange your tragic accident. It's cleaner for everyone. Maria's hand closed around the only weapon she had, a heavy, industrial spray bottle of glass cleaner from her belt. As the man lunged, she didn't aim for his face. She shot the jet of ammonia-based liquid directly into his eyes. He screamed, stumbling back, clawing at his face. The second man hesitated, surprised by the violent reaction. In that split second, Maria ducked under his grabbing arm and sprinted toward the garage's vehicle entrance ramp. Shouts echoed behind her. A car engine roared to life, headlights spearing the darkness, aiming to cut her off. She veered between concrete pillars, her lungs burning. The ramp led up to a street level secured by event staff, if she could get there. A black sedan screeched to a halt at the top of the ramp, blocking the way out. Despair hit her. Then the passenger window rolled down. It was Leo. His face was pale, etched with conflict. Get in, now. There was no time to question it. Maria yanked the door open and threw herself inside as the pursuing car accelerated toward them. Leo slammed the gas, tires screaming as he swerved around the other vehicle and burst out onto the city street. They're tracking your transmitter, Leo yelled, weaving through traffic. The panic button, it's compromised. You need to take it off and throw it out the window. Maria ripped the device from her collar and hurled it out. Why are you helping me? Because my sister died last night, Leo said, his voice breaking. The treatment Blackguard was paying for, it was a placebo, a lie to keep me compliant. They never intended to save her. They just needed a lever. I have nothing left to lose by crossing them. He drove to a prearranged emergency rally point, a closed auto body shop. Costa was already there, surrounded by a starkly reduced team. His usual composure was gone, replaced by a cold, terrifying fury. When he saw Maria alive, the relief was fleeting, washed away by grim understanding. Report, he demanded of Leo. Leo laid it out. The operation against Isabella was always theater. Blackguard's head, a man named Silas Rourke, had orchestrated the entire leak to Leo's phone, predicting a person of conscience would find it and report it. They profiled the cleaning staff. Maria, with her son's medical debts and clean record, was identified as the most likely to go to management. Her involvement was the trigger for Phase 2, discrediting Costa by framing him for her disappearance. They have a witness, Leo added, his voice hollow. A former Citadel accountant they paid off. He's prepared to testify that he saw you, Costa, ordering Maria's termination and implying permanent silence just yesterday. They have doctored financials showing a payment to a shell company they'll link to a fictional hitman. They were going to find her body tomorrow. Costa was silent, processing the depth of the trap. He'd been playing checkers while Rourke was playing chess. Where is my mother? Safe, sir, one of his men said. The gala incident was a non-event. Our team detained the would-be shooter. He's a nobody, a paid actor with a pellet gun. So the liability list, the meetings, the asset, all of it was set dressing, Maria whispered, the scale of the manipulation making her dizzy. Just to get me here, to make you trust me enough to bring me into your confidence, so my disappearance would be believable as you tying up a loose end. Exactly, Costa said. He looked at Leo. You are a marked man now. I know, Leo replied. I want in. I want to burn Rourke down. Costa gave a single, sharp nod. He turned to his tech specialist. We need to pivot, hard and fast. Rourke expects us to be scrambling to defend, to cover up a crime he's about to accuse us of, so we don't defend. A ruthless light entered his eyes. We attack the foundation of his plot. We steal his narrative. The new plan was born in the next frantic hour. They couldn't disprove the frame-up before it happened, so they would expose it as it happened. They would turn Maria's kidnapping into a live broadcast. Maria would go to a second, secret safe house that Blackguard was certain to know about, a property quietly owned by one of Costa's shell companies. Costa's team would let the kidnapping proceed, but they would be watching every inch of the location. Hidden cameras, audio feeds, drones. When Blackguard's men took her, they would be recording their own conspiracy. It's incredibly dangerous, Costa said to Maria. You will be in their custody. We will be minutes away, but minutes are a lifetime. If they suspect the setup, they will kill you immediately. Maria thought of Miguel, safe with Costa's most trusted protectors. She thought of the circled name on the phone. She had wanted to be brave. This was what bravery looked like. What do I need to do? You need to be a convincing victim, Costa said. And you need to get one of them to say Rourke's name on tape. We need the direct link. The stage safe house was a modest apartment. Maria waited, her heart a drum in her chest. She didn't have to wait long. Just after 3 a.m., the door exploded inward. 2 men, not the ones from the garage, grabbed her, bound her wrists with zip ties, and shoved a hood over her head. She fought, as instructed, enough to be believable. She was thrown into a van. The drive felt endless. In the darkness, she listened. Easy money, one man said. Grab the lady, hold her for 24 hours, make the call to the cops. Rourke pays on time, I'll give him that, the other grunted. Says this is the final piece. Once the cops find her and the evidence in Costa's vault, it's game over. Maria's blood ran cold. They had planted physical evidence, something tangible to find. The van stopped. She was dragged into a building that smelled of damp and old machinery, a warehouse. They sat her in a chair, the hood still on. Just sit tight, sweetheart, a voice said. Your boss is about to have a very bad day. She heard them walk away, their voices growing distant as they moved to another part of the warehouse. This was her moment. Costa's team had given her a final tool, a thin ceramic shard sewn into her sleeve seam. She worked her wrists, sawing the zip tie against the sharp edge. It was agonizingly slow, the plastic bit into her skin. After what felt like an eternity, the tie snapped. She pulled off the hood. She was in a small, windowless storage room. The door was locked from the outside, but the ceiling had a ventilation grate. Using the chair, she climbed, her fingers raw and bleeding. The grate was screwed in, but the screws were old and rusty. Using the ceramic shard as a makeshift screwdriver, she worked them loose, one torturous quarter turn at a time. The first screw clattered to the floor. She froze, listening. No reaction. She got the second screw out, pushed the grate aside, and hauled herself up into the dark, dusty ductwork. It was a tight fit, but she crawled, following the faint sound of voices. The duct opened into a larger mezzanine area overlooking the warehouse floor. Below, 3 men were gathered around a laptop. On a table beside them was a clear evidence bag containing a bloodied knife and a man's watch. Her stomach turned. They were staging a murder weapon. One of the men was on the phone. Yeah, boss, package is secured. The physical plant is in place. We're ready for phase 3. The anonymous tip to the police tomorrow morning, guiding them to Costa's property and the body. No, she's alive. For now. Rourke wants to handle the finale personally, says he has questions about Costa's offshore networks first. Maria's breath caught. Rourke was coming here tonight. She needed to warn Costa, but crawling back to the room was useless. She had to find another way out. She inched further along the duct, which terminated at another grate overlooking a loading bay. An old fire escape ladder was welded to the far wall. It was a 20-foot drop to the concrete floor. As she pried at the grate, a door slammed open below. A new man walked in, flanked by guards. He was in his 50s, with silver hair and the expensive, casual wear of someone who never got his hands dirty. Silas Rourke. "Where is she?" Rourke's voice was calm, pleasant even. "In the holding room, sir." "Bring her to the office. Let's have a chat before we close this chapter." Maria worked faster, her fingers slipping. The grate gave way with a metallic screech. It tumbled down, crashing onto the concrete. Every head in the warehouse turned upward. Rourke's eyes locked onto hers in the vent opening. His pleasant expression didn't change. "Well," he said, "this is a development." Maria didn't think, she jumped. The drop was brutal, sending a shock of pain up her legs. She stumbled, then ran for the fire escape ladder. Shouts erupted. A gunshot rang out, sparking off the metal near her hand. She climbed, her muscles screaming. Reaching the roof, the cold night air hit her face. The warehouse was in a desolate industrial park. She ran to the edge, looking for any sign of Costa's team. Another roof was nearby, a 6-foot gap across an alley. It was her only chance. She backed up, took a running start, and leaped. Her foot caught the opposite ledge. She scrambled, pulling herself up as more men poured onto the warehouse roof behind her. She ran across this new roof, toward a streetlight she could see in the distance. Then a new sound cut through the night, not sirens but the powerful roar of motorcycle engines. 2 sleek black bikes tore into the industrial park below, followed by a fortified SUV. Costa's team. They'd been monitoring her biometrics from a subdermal tracker. The jump had triggered a panic alert. Rourke's men on the roof turned their fire from Maria to the new arrivals. In the chaos, Maria found a roof access door. It was locked. Trapped on the rooftop, caught in a crossfire, she saw Rourke being hurried into a car on the street below. He looked up, his gaze finding hers one last time. It was a look that promised this wasn't over. The warehouse door below burst open. Costa himself emerged, armed, his team securing the area. He looked up at the roof, located Maria, and pointed to the far side. "Fire escape, now." She found the rusted ladder and climbed down, collapsing into the secure perimeter his men had formed. The warehouse was swarming. Leo was there, helping secure the stunned blackguard operatives. "Rourke," Costa asked his lieutenant. "Gone, sir. Clean car, no plates. He had an exit route prepped." Costa helped Maria to her feet. "You got the audio, the admission." She nodded, breathless. "I got it. He's coming. He was coming here to question me about your offshore networks." A shadow passed over Costa's face. That detail changed everything. This wasn't just a business takeover. Rourke wasn't just after his company. He was after something specific, something hidden. The frame-up, the elaborate trap, it was all a smokescreen for a different kind of theft. Costa looked from the captured men to the evidence-bagged knife on the table. "He wanted me distracted, discredited, and fighting for my freedom," he said, his voice low. "Because when you're fighting for your life in a courtroom, you're not guarding what's in the vault." He turned to Maria, the full, horrifying scope clear in his eyes. "This was never about destroying me. It was about robbing me blind while I wasn't looking." The vault. Costa's words hung in the cold warehouse air, reconfiguring every prior move in an instant. He wasn't just fighting for his reputation anymore. He was in a race against a silent, invisible theft already in motion. He grabbed his phone, his commands sharp. "Lock down the primary data center. Full protocol. Now." He turned to Maria, his urgency palpable. My company's value isn't in weapons or cash. It's in data, threat assessments for governments, blackmail dossiers on competitors compiled over decades, the encryption keys for half a dozen intelligence agencies that use our secure networks. That's what's in the vault, a digital nuclear arsenal. If Rourke gets it, he doesn't need to destroy me. He becomes me, but without any of the restraints. The drive back to Citadel headquarters was a silent blur of strategy. Costa's tech teams were already reporting. The physical vault, a hardened server farm beneath the building, was secure. No breach, but Costa's face remained grim. He wouldn't go for the physical. He'd go for the keys, the access. They pored over access logs. For weeks there had been no anomalous entries. Then a junior analyst pointed out a pattern. Every Tuesday and Friday night for the past month, there were brief authorized logins to a low-priority backup server from the office of the chief financial officer, a man named David Chen. Chen had been with Costa for 12 years. The activity was within his clearance, but the timing was odd, always between 3 and 3:15 a.m. during the cleaning shift. He's piggybacking on the system maintenance window, the analyst said, using Chen's credentials, which he must have compromised to create a mirrored data stream. He's not stealing files. He's copying a live feed of the decryption traffic. He's been siphoning it for weeks. David Chen was brought in, confused and then horrified. A routine phishing test from internal security a month ago hadn't been a test. He'd entered his credentials. Blackguard had been inside ever since. The clock was ticking. Rourke knew his warehouse operation had failed. He would accelerate his digital theft. Costa's team formulated a desperate counterstroke. They couldn't just cut the feed. Rourke would know and might launch the doctored evidence against Costa prematurely. They had to poison the well. The plan was called Operation Mousetrap. They would allow the siphoning to continue, but the data stream would be subtly altered. They would feed Rourke's servers a blend of real, outdated intelligence and brilliantly crafted fictions, fake diplomatic cables implicating his clients in scandals, flawed encryption protocols that would backdoor his own systems, and financial trails leading to accounts controlled by international authorities. We make the prize he's stealing toxic, Costa explained. He'll use it and it will explode in his hands. But to do it, we need to access his ingestion server. We need to see exactly where the data is going. This was where Maria came in again. The cleaning staff had access to every office, including David Chen's. A sophisticated piece of hardware, a network tap disguised as a common USB power adapter, needed to be planted in Chen's office outlet. It would identify the exact destination of the stolen data. It's the last piece of the puzzle, Costa told her. We find the destination, we feed him the poisoned data, and then we take the recording of his men kidnapping you, along with the digital evidence of his corporate espionage, to the federal authorities. It ends him. Maria nodded. The fear was a constant companion now, but so was a fierce determination. She had seen the face of the man who wanted to use her as a pawn to break an empire. She wouldn't let him. The next night, Maria entered David Chen's office during her rounds. Her hands were steady as she swapped the existing power adapter for the identical-looking device from Costa. As she polished the desk, her eyes scanned the room. A framed photo of Chen with his family, a stress ball shaped like a globe, a stack of financial journals. Then she saw it. Tucked under the blotter, almost invisible, was a small, handwritten note. It was a series of numbers and a single word: Lighthouse. She took a picture with her phone and sent it to Costa. The response was immediate. Lighthouse is a blackguard shell company, a private server farm in a converted lighthouse on the coast. That's the destination. The note is Chen's backup in case he forgot. He's compromised, but he's not complicit. Get out. The trap was set. Over the next 48 hours, Costa's tech team fed the poisoned data stream into the lighthouse servers. They monitored as Blackguard's systems began to ingest the fabricated intelligence. Meanwhile, The recorded confessions from the warehouse, clearly nomming Rourke, were packaged with the evidence of the digital breach and delivered anonymously to the FBI and the Securities and Exchange Commission. The reaction was swift and merciless. At dawn on the third day, federal agents simultaneously raided Blackguard's corporate headquarters, the Lighthouse Server Farm, and two of Rourke's private residences. The news broke by midday. Security tightened Silas Rourke arrested in massive corporate espionage and kidnapping plot. Costa and Maria watched the coverage from his secure office. Rourke was led away in handcuffs, his silver hair disheveled, his face a mask of cold fury. The charges were extensive: conspiracy to commit kidnapping, wire fraud, corporate espionage, attempted extortion. "It's over," Maria breathed, feeling a tension she'd carried for weeks begin to unravel. "For him," Costa said, "for us it's a new beginning." He turned to her. "I made you a promise. Your son's medical care, that stands, but I'm offering more. A job, not in custodial, in my new internal security division." Maria was stunned. "What could I possibly do?" "You have a preternatural ability to see what others miss, to connect dots in high-pressure situations. You have more operational field experience now than half my junior analysts. I want you to help me find the next leak, the next pressure point, before it becomes a crisis. To protect this company from the inside, the way you just helped save it." It was an impossible leap from cleaning offices to securing them. But as she thought about it, she realized she had already been doing that job. She had been seeing the unseen, noticing the details in the shadows. She accepted. The fallout reshaped the security landscape. With Blackguard dismantled and Rourke awaiting trial, Citadel's reputation, rather than being destroyed, was cemented. Clients praised Costa's brilliant counterintelligence operation. David Chen, after a thorough investigation, was cleared of wrongdoing and placed in charge of revamping the company's digital security protocols. Leo was given a full pardon for his coerced involvement and offered a position heading physical security for the Costa family's philanthropic foundation, a job that let him use his skills to protect, not threaten. 6 weeks later, Maria stood in a sunlit conference room, no longer in a uniform but in professional attire, explaining a new employee vetting protocol to department heads. After the meeting, Costa asked her to join him for a walk. He led her to the building's rooftop garden, a serene space of flowering trees and reflecting pools. Waiting for them was Isabella Costa. The matriarch smiled warmly, taking Maria's hands in hers. "My son has told me everything," Isabella said, her voice gentle but firm. "About your courage, your loyalty. You saved my son's legacy, and you saved me from being a tool in a terrible man's game. For that, you have my eternal gratitude." "I was just trying to do the right thing," Maria said. "The right thing is often the hardest road," Isabella replied, "and you walked it without flinching." She glanced at her son. "I believe a promise was made about a young boy's health. I am here to ensure it is not just a corporate benefit but a family vow." Costa handed Maria a sealed envelope. Inside were documents establishing a fully funded, irrevocable trust for Miguel's medical and educational needs. It was more than security, it was freedom. As Isabella left them, Costa gestured to the city skyline. "It's quieter now, but it's never truly over. There will always be another Rourke, another threat." "I know," Maria said, following his gaze, "but next time we'll see them coming." He nodded, a look of respect passing between them that transcended employer and employee. They had been forged in the same fire. "There's one final piece of business," Costa said, his tone shifting. "The initial list on Leo's phone, the other names, the city councilor, the rival CEO. They were real potential targets chosen because they were enemies of Blackguard. We've quietly informed them of their risk. They are now clients, under our protection. A happy coincidence of circumventing Rourke's plan." Maria understood. Even in victory, Costa had found a way to expand his influence. The man was always playing the long game, But for the first time, she felt she was no longer a piece on the board. She was helping to design it. That evening, she picked up Miguel from his new top-tier therapy center. He ran to her, his eyes bright, talking a mile a minute about the aquatic therapy pool. As she held him, she thought of the unlocked phone, the circled name, the moment her world turned upside down. It had led her here, to a life she could never have imagined, guarding secrets in the light instead of cleaning them away in the dark. She had gone from being invisible to becoming indispensable. And as she looked out at the city lights beginning to shimmer in the dusk, she knew the most valuable secret she now protected was her own. That sometimes, the most powerful forces are not the ones who shout the loudest, but the ones who have learned to see in the silence. The story of Maria Sanchez and the unlocked phone lives in that tense space between fiction and a chillingly plausible reality. Because the digital trails we leave and the devices we leave unguarded have become the modern crime scene. In documented federal cases, murder-for-hire conspiracies have been unraveled not by dramatic confrontations, but by the slow, methodical analysis of cell phone location pings, cryptocurrency transfers, and text messages that conspirators believed were private. The plot against Isabella Costa was a fiction, but the mechanics, the coercion of an employee through family medical debt, the use of a compromised insider, the creation of false evidence to frame a rival, are tactics pulled directly from the playbook of real corporate espionage and organized crime. Maria's journey from invisibility to insight mirrors a fundamental truth in security. The human element is always the weakest link, but also the most powerful detector. Whistleblowers and accidental witnesses, often the lowest paid and most overlooked employees, are frequently the first to see the cracks in a corrupt system. Their decision to speak up, despite immense personal risk, is what prevents larger tragedies. This narrative also asks an uncomfortable question about the world we've built. In an age where private security firms wield power rivaling nation-states, holding digital arsenals of secrets, who watches the watchman? The answer, perhaps, is that we all must. That vigilance is not just the job of the guard in the suit, but of every person who notices when something doesn't add up. Silas Rourke's downfall came not from a rival's superior firepower, but from a cleaner's conscience and his own arrogant underestimation of her. He saw a pawn. She proved to be the queen on the board, moving quietly to checkmate his entire scheme. The greatest security system in the world can be undone by a single act of human decency. So the next time you glance at a phone left unattended on a desk, or overhear a conversation not meant for you, remember that the line between ordinary life and a hidden world of consequence is thinner than we dare believe. The most important secrets are not always found in vaults, but in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to connect the dots. If you found yourself drawn into this web of deception and digital danger, let me know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Your perspective makes this global conversation real. And if you want to journey deeper into the shadows where other hidden stories wait, stories of corporate conspiracies, impossible heists, and the ordinary people who find themselves at the center of them, then make sure you're subscribed and that notification bell is turned on, because the next revelation is always just one click away. Thanks for watching.